Welcome into another edition of the Sports Edge Podcast. I'm your host, Commissioner Dan Stanzik. A pleasure to be alongside two-time SEFFL champion Justin The Guru Eisner. Guru, we are 1 week in. How are you feeling tonight?
Pretty good. Definitely made some adjustments, made the camera adjustment, got our notes ready to go. I feel like we were a little rusty on week one, so let's go.
We're ready to go. We got a big show planned for you. We're going to get to some bold predictions for the season, some trivia. But first, we're going to look back at our biggest takeaways from week one. No studs and duds this week because you guys are going to be seeing this until Thursday morning at the earliest. Some of you probably won't watch it at all. We'll get into that later. And we're on to week two. But big picture, Guru, what stood out to you? Give me your number one takeaway.
I mean, number one to me is obvious, which is shame on you, Dan. Shame on me. Shame on us. What were we thinking?
I know exactly where you're going with this because this is also one of my takeaways. It has to be takeaway number two, but I knew we'd have overlap, and that is fine.
Yeah,
but I know what this one is.
We know,
and the audience should know what this one is too.
This is like when you coach, especially young women. Like, if it feels wrong in that situation, you should probably leave that situation. It's not gonna be a good situation. And you and I spent the whole last podcast, praising Steve, saying how bad it felt. It felt weird. It felt wrong. We should have left, right? We should have left the party. It was wrong. We shouldn't have been there. That's my number one takeaway is shame on us. Of course, Steve scored less than 80 points.
My number one takeaway is weird analogy by you there, but I think I get it with the girl at the I don't know what's happening there exactly.
Wrong.
But
the situation felt wrong and we stayed. We should have.
Okay, we should have left. Okay, good advice. Good advice. Yeah. My number two takeaway was a classic Steve Curtis no-show. After we gassed him up in the preseason, lays an egg in week one. Like, how did we not see that coming? Like, we should have known better. Shame on us. I will say he's already made the switch to Jaden Daniels at quarterback for week two. I expect him to absolutely trounce Hoban, which means Hoban's probably going to go 2-0 and win with two tight ends and yada yada yada. We'll get into more on that later. My number one takeaway is that the top three teams from last year lost. Hath, Zans, our defending champion, and you, the Guru. The last time the three of you all lost in the same week, 2019. We're talking pre-pandemic. You, Hath, and Zans all lost 1, 2, and 3 seeds from the playoffs. The two teams that squared off in the finals all lost. Hathaway, obviously, in embarrassing fashion to Hoban. You lost a tight game to Pete, and Zans lost a tight one to Walsh. A lot of Monday night action on that one where things could have swung either way. Obviously, it didn't go in your favor or in Zans' favor. Hath's was already decided heading in after Sunday night. So big takeaway there. It's a new season. I talk about the parity of this league all the time. We've had 7 straight new league winners. And it looks like we could be on our way to 8 straight unless Zans gets it together. He does face me in week 2, so we'll see how that goes. Give me another takeaway.
Number 2.
I asked you for 3. If you have more or less, that's fine too. We can adjust on the fly. We're professionals.
No, I've got a couple. That was not one of mine. Although oddly, I did lose on a kind of a Monday night. Got beat by Debo on the last night. I actually felt really good about the loss. We can get into that another time. I don't want to go.
That's some weird spin zone you're doing there. Why do you feel good about the loss? Well, let's dive into that right now.
Sure. The way that the rosters played out for me, I think was a really good week. We had clearly, I think the Cincinnati Bengal running back situation pretty clear. I felt really good about that. So I feel like I've got another running back there.
You're happy with Zach Moss outperforming, out-touching Chase Brown. Seems to be the clear number one.
Okay. Cooper Kupp is back.
Yep.
Cooper Kupp is back. So I felt really good about that. That was huge.
I mean, you lost by less than 3 points, and you're feeling positive. I'm glad to hear it. Good for you.
Yeah. And then on my bench, I felt like I was worried about the Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler thing. It's clearly Brian Robinson. That's good news for me. I know where we're going there. And I felt really good about Bucky Irving in Tampa.
Yeah.
So on my bench, so I realized none of this contributed to my win, but a bunch of things that I wasn't clear about, I felt like got clear. So I was actually okay with the loss.
Excellent. All right, give me another takeaway from
you might have been more wrong, but I was wrong about Robbie.
Yeah.
I was wrong about Robbie. I re-looked at the roster. I looked at the results. I like Robbie's team. I'm completely wrong about it. You were more wrong because you had him lower than me, but I was wrong. I was wrong on Robbie. That was number 2.
I was more wrong. I agree. And I have plenty on Robbie coming up later in the podcast. That's a good takeaway. I'm going to give you my last one, and then you can run through yours. Yeah. We're not gonna dwell on week 1, like I said. My number 2 takeaway was shame on us, Steve Curtis. My third takeaway kind of just broad takeaway here, but old faces, new places. Guys like Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, J.K. Dobbins, Aaron Jones, Stephon Diggs, Allen Lazard, Jerry Jeudy, all look strong to quite strong for their new teams. Now, obviously, Lazard was with the Jets last year. We're not going to count that. But a lot of guys moved, a lot of running backs moved to new teams, and a lot of pretty promising week one performances there. So, a lot to take away from week one. I'm sure you have other takeaways. Hit me with them.
Well, I'll go down kind of that route about like old coming back to new. This is old not coming back to new. I think just Drake London's bad at football. Are we just can we just go down that takeaway? Like that was the only part of my roster I was really upset about. I feel like what's the chick in Mean Girls? Like I'm trying to make fetch happen. Like we need to stop trying
Lindsay
to
Lohan's character?
Drake London happen. No, it was the other chick. It was
I'm unfamiliar. Okay. Good movie.
Great movie.
They remade it, I'm pretty sure.
She keeps trying to use fetch instead of cool, and she's like, "Stop trying to make fetch happen."
Not a thing.
Trying to make
Drake London's not a thing.
London happen. It's not happening. It feels like it's my new Devontae Parker.
Wow.
I'm getting beaten down by this receiver. I keep bringing him on, but that was just on that note. That was my takeaway. I'll give you my third takeaway.
Please.
Fourth one's quick, so we don't have to worry about that one. The Jordan Love injury is a killer for Walsh. Yeah. I really liked where Walsh was going as I look at his roster in the week that he had. It's going to kill him to lose Jordan.
Who's his backup quarterback?
It was not good. I forget.
We should probably know this as the professionals. I keep saying that we claim to be as I vamp here, as they call it in the business. He does have Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it wasn't. I'm not.
It's not.
We'll get more to that later.
That's not totally promising here for Mr. Walsh, but
the last one I had was just Stanzik, as predicted by me, is a wagon. Huge output with no Christian McCaffrey and basically plugging in me at running back. So
late switch. Did you see? I picked up Kyle Juszczyk at the gun here. Threw him in there. He got 5 points. I was in a projection standoff there. I had to surpass Robbie. Pete was in the mix there with Debo, and I was like, I'm picking up Kyle Juszczyk, and if he gets me 1 to 2 points, that may be the difference in winning $25 for being the high score for the week. So I thought it was totally worth it. Juszczyk scored 5 points. It was great. Big week for the commish.
Those are my takeaways.
Excellent. All right, we'll move right along then. We'll keep things moving here. New segment this year. I have some Sports Edge trivia for you.
I've been bad at these, by the way. So
it's in relation to things that happened in week one, so it's a little more of like a recap with some trivia questions for you. You will be our lone player, no guest this week. I'm sure the guests will be knocking down the door to come on the spot in future editions, as they always are. Hathaway's dismal 72.96 point effort was his lowest since 2018. He had gone 70 straight games scoring 75 or more points, but it wasn't the longest active streak in the league. Who holds the active record for most consecutive games scoring 75 or more points in 98 straight games?
What was the total number? 75?
75 or more. 98 straight games. This manager has eclipsed that total.
Me.
It is you, the Guru. Look at this.
Come on.
Wow. I assumed you wouldn't guess yourself. This streak dates back to the beginning of the 2016 season. We're talking the Obama administration. Guru, you have not scored under 75 points in that many seasons. That's incredible.
That is incredible.
Your streak, while impressive, not the longest in league history.
Oh, twist.
Who holds the record for the most consecutive games scoring 75 or more points all time?
You.
Correct again. You're 2 for 2.
Come on, Stan.
The commish. I eclipsed 75 points in 123 games in a streak that started in 2011 and was snapped in 2020. Crazy. We're going to have to monitor that all year for you. You are, if I do my math correctly, you are 25 games away from tying my record, 26 games away from eclipsing my record. You obviously can't do that this year, but something to monitor for us going forward.
This is great. I'm 2 for 2.
That was just trivia question number 1, but there are 2 questions within it, and you got them both right, so I'm very impressed. You're 2 for 2.
And we did
number 2 questions
in the pre-show meeting. I think it's important.
I know, was I feeding you the answers? Is this like a $64 an hour question? That's a reference.
Yeah,
quiz show. Anyone seen the movie?
I haven't mentioned the pre-show meeting, so I feel like I needed to say it.
Yeah. I did not share these with you. I should make that clear. My integrity is very high. As we've discussed, Hoban beat Hathaway in what we like to call a pillow fight. I think Steve Curtis actually came up with that term when two teams both score less than 100. He calls it a pillow fight. Probably the biggest thing Steve has contributed to this league outside of his yearly donation, which he never claims because he never wins. But the question for you, Mr. Guru, how many times in the past 10 seasons, so going back to the 2014 seasons, do you think Hoban has won a game while scoring less than 100 points?
It's a great question. Okay, so
it's going to be hard for you to like get the exact number. This is a hard one for you to get, but just like we're talking it out loud here. There is a follow-up question to this as well. They have a better chance of getting, but
it used to be 13 regular season games and now it's 14, or it used
correct.
to be 12? Yeah, so 13. Yeah. So what was the dating back to year?
Dating back to 2014. So in the last 10 seasons. So in about approximately the last 130-ish games, how many times has he won by scoring less than 100?
I'm going to guess 15.
Not a bad guess. It's 11. 11 times Hoban has won in a pillow fight.
It seems like it's always him, doesn't it?
That's why I looked it up. Follow-up question. Who do you think has the most such wins in the past 10 seasons?
It's not him.
I didn't say it wasn't him. You could feel free to guess Hoban if you'd like.
I'm gonna just guess him. I couldn't believe it would be somebody else.
It is not Hoban.
Okay.
Hoban is number 2. Number 1, 13 times Robbie Goudati has won in a pillow fight in the last 10 seasons.
Fascinating.
Brian Walsh, only 3 times. And Pete, only 3 times as well.
Okay.
Those are the lowest. Cass, only 2, but he's only been in the league for about 3 years in the past 10 years. So, obviously his numbers are going to be
low. I feel like Walsh gets scored on a lot, right? Like he tends to be in higher scoring game. I feel like in the last couple of years.
So I think the reason Pete was at the bottom of that list is because he tends to score over 100 a lot more.
Yeah, good point.
So, easier to, or I guess harder to win those games when you're scoring more than 100. Last trivia question for you.
Okay.
Only 2 managers, the aforementioned Robbie Goudati and myself, have started the season with a win in each of the past 2 seasons. Only I, the Commish, have notched a victory in week 1 in 3 straight seasons. Who do you think has the best week 1 record in the history of the Sports Edge Fantasy Football League? All-time week 1 records. Who has the best record?
Based on win percentage or based on total number of wins?
Both.
Ooh, it's the same person?
It's the same person.
Okay. Well, that helps me. Pete.
Incorrect. Pete is 3rd. I'll let you guess again. Pete's 8-6 all-time week 1.
Wow, an 8-6 is 3rd, huh? That's pretty crazy. I think it would have been a better record. It has to be like an original member, I would think. So I'll go with Zanz.
Zanz is 2nd, 10-7.
Wow, we're just counting us down.
I'll give you one more guess.
Okay. You.
Incorrect. 8-9.
Oh, wow.
The best week 1 record in league history. Pat Hoban.
Get out of here.
11-6.
What a day. What a trivia day we have.
Unbelievable. You, by the way, 7-10.
I knew I wasn't good. I knew it wasn't good.
Yeah, pretty far down the list. I will have you know, I didn't pull all the week 2 numbers for everyone, but you are actually 9-3 in week 2 games dating back to 2012, or whatever that's worth.
Yeah, I do feel like I lose week 1 a lot, so
and then you bounce back week 2. I am unfortunately 4-8 in week 2 games in that same stretch, so not great. We kind of switched around there. Fun trivia. There you go. You did better than I thought.
I did pretty good.
There was no chance you were getting Hoban being the best week 1 team of all time.
No, that was tough.
Yeah.
And the fact that my progressive guesses were 3rd and 2nd, that was pretty good.
Pretty good.
15 on 11 was pretty good too. Like that was a hard number to pick. I got close. Although Price is Right rules, I busted, but
it's true. It's true. Yeah. All right, last segment for us. I asked you to create 5 bold predictions, and we're going to start from your least bold, end with your boldest. So we're going to get progressively spicy. We can bounce back and forth. You can go number 5, I'll go number 5. You can go number 4, I go number 4, and then we'll each end with our spicy steak. Again, if there's overlap, whatever, it's fine. We think similarly, that's okay. Do you have 5?
I have 4, although I can't decide which one is more or less spicy than the other.
Oh, you didn't rank them in order of spiciness?
I didn't rank them in order of spiciness.
Okay, you're going to have to do some work on the fly here to spice them up in the correct order. I will start with number 5.
Okay.
And then you can go to number 4, and then we'll be back in rhythm. So my number 5 boldest prediction for the 2024 Sports Edge Fantasy Football League season. And again, I told you this doesn't have to be specific to our league. It can be just players in the league and just be broadly speaking. So these are kind of going to be all over the place. Number 5, my boldest prediction is that Robbie actually watches an episode of the pod this year. Wow. He already spent some of his waiver budget, which made me spit out my coffee this morning. I don't know if you saw this.
I didn't see this.
He did. I forget who he picked up. I think Alec Pierce, maybe the Colts wide receiver. Double check me on that if you got the league and transactions up. But Robbie spent like $16 of his waiver budget. Spent $0 last year. Again, I legitimately spit out my coffee when I saw that. I was like, oh my god. Are you seeing this?
I am. Give me a second. I'm trying to find his.
I'm pretty sure that was it. Someone got Alan Lazard. I wasn't sure
16. Alec Pierce, the Colts.
There you go. All right, I had it. Yeah, should have just wrote it into my notes here, and we could have kept things moving for you. But so Rod, that's my prediction, and I will also add to that. Perhaps we see a reinvigorated Robbie this year. I have heard reports from my contacts in the media that Team Gadati has posted some of our preseason comments about their roster all over their practice facility. And let's not forget, this team started the 2020 season 5-0 and went on to win a championship. So, it's been some thin years here and there. They're generally pretty competitive. We didn't like the roster going into the season, but earlier in the pod, you already mentioned, you looked at it again, and you're like, shit, it's pretty good. Could make some things happen here. I think he's got an uphill climb in week 2, if memory serves here. I should have that up too, but I don't.
I'm backing us up. Give me a second. We've got in week 2.
He's got Pete. He's got Pete. So he's got some work to do in week 2. But perhaps we see Robbie making a run for it. What do you got? Number 4, spiciest, boldest prediction for the 2024 season.
Again, I'm not sure which one. You'll have to tell me at the end how you would rank my spiciness, but I'm going to go just on theme because I have a Robbie spicy take as well. Robbie makes the playoffs.
Okay. All
Robbie
right.
makes the playoffs. That was a takeaway. Like I said, I said in one of my, week 1 takeaways, we were wrong on Robbie. I was wrong. You were more wrong. That was how I phrased it. But I love what Rashee Rice, Alvin Kamara, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Gibbs, they looked great. And by the way, that was with Rome Odunze doing nothing. If he ever wakes up, that's a whole nother. And obviously Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. So I was wrong on Robbie. I said it earlier, but my bold prediction is Robbie makes the playoffs.
It's a good prediction. He has not made the playoffs since that aforementioned 2020 season in which he won the league. He had made the playoffs 3 straight years, 2018, 2019, 2020. So had a good thing going there, capped it with a title, and then hasn't made the playoffs since. Pretty good prediction out of you. A lot of love for Robbie this episode after that big week 1 performance. My number 4 boldest prediction for the year. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to lead all rookie wide receivers in points. And I will add to that. I will take the bait here and say Marvin Harrison Jr. does not finish in the top 3 among rookie wide receivers. Give me Thomas, give me Neighbors, give me Worthy, and maybe even the young lad McConkey to all outpace Marvin Harrison Jr., who put up a dud classic for Team Curtis in week 1.
I love that. So I told you earlier that I couldn't quite come up with a 5th. I was noodling on that general topic. One of the thoughts I had was that none of the rookie wide receivers taken in the first round were going to do anything. That was kind of something I was hovering around, and you kind of just phrased it a little bit differently. I completely agree with that.
Love it. There you go. You are on to your number 3. What do you got?
I'll give you my only. So you did preface it could be sports edge or regular football or whatever. This is my only non-sports edge of the list. It pains me to say this, and maybe this isn't a bold prediction. You'll have to tell me if you think it's bold or not. The Jets don't make the playoffs.
I mean, they lost in week 1. I haven't seen updated odds. I think they were.
They were
favored to make. I think you would have had to give money.
I mean, they were like what, the 5th or 6th, maybe less than that, best odds to win the Super Bowl. I don't think they make the playoffs.
Wow. Okay, you're just a bit embittered Jets fan here. You and Pete.
I mean, they just made some undrafted clown look like Walter Payton. Like, what are we doing here? So, no, thank you. No, thank you.
Hey, wow. All right. Well, they get the Titans this week. Maybe they turn things around. Who knows? I'm not ready for that one. I think that would count. That's your number 3 spiciest prediction. I think that's a pretty good spot for that. My number 3 spicy take, bold take. I have J.K. Dobbins rushing for 1,000+ yards. Injuries so far have been the story of his career. Originally a 2nd-round pick by you. Did you remember that? You took him.
I do.
His rookie year.
Hurt, and I think
and then you didn't keep him. I think he got hurt, and then Steve took him. And then he sat on Curtis's bench for years rehabbing, and then was unceremoniously left off the roster before the draft this year. Walsh snagged him in the third round, and I think he's going to flourish in the Jim Harbaugh offense and hopefully make Steve pay for cutting him. Number 3, J.K. Dobbins never rushed for 1,000 yards. I think he goes over 1,000 this year.
I mean, a guy overlooked by Steve, probably good. Probably good.
We are back. It took until after week 1 for us to be back. We are back.
I was so mad when I saw these scores as well. I mean, just so mad at us. We're just such a bad job. All right.
Unbelievable. Number 2, what do you got?
Let's go. Here we go. All right. I don't know which one's better than the other one, but I'm going to go with this one based on what we were just talking about. Hathaway will be a 500-ish team fighting for a playoff spot.
Wow. I'm going to ruin my number 1. I have Hathaway missing the playoffs.
Yeah, I think because I can't tell what everyone else, like 500, you should miss the playoffs, right? But I think it's going to be a 500 team, but because of the way the league works.
I mean, six teams get in. It's hard to miss the playoffs. I got to be honest.
That's what I mean. So I said fighting for that last playoff spot, right? But he's going to be a 500 team.
Yeah. The way I see it, he's already benched Burrow, Amon-Ra St. Brown, more parts in his name than he had points in week 1. And I will just be honest, the allure of this once dominant team, no more. He lost the most winnable game on his schedule. I mean, granted, he's going to get Hoban again in week 10, but this is a team that has just lost 3 times in the regular season in the past 2 years combined. They start 0-1 with a loss to Hoban and score the lowest total in the league. Vibes aren't there for Hathaway this year. A once dominant team. I don't know. Michigan wins the title. The Lions are really good. Hathaway's team might be crumbling. I don't know.
Yeah.
I had that for number 1.
Yeah.
I will give you to save the suspense. We still have your boldest take of the year. So I will just go with my second boldest take. I have Brock Bowers outscoring Trey McBride and Travis Kelce. Bowers already the face of Hoban's roster, and his insistence on starting 2 tight ends is going to be a recurring theme throughout the year. He is already starting 2 tight ends this week. So is Pete, hopping on that bandwagon. Those La Salsa bros there doing the same thing. Pete starting Mark Andrews and George Kittle. Hoban, of course, starting Bowers and Dallas Goedert. It just looks so weird to have Dallas Goedert starting in a flex. But I think Bowers is going to feast on targets from Gardner Minshew all season, and the Raiders are going to be railing late in games to catch up, get a lot of targets, get a lot of points. And of course, I strategically picked Trey McBride and Travis Kelce because those are our tight ends. And I think we're going to have a little thing going with Hoban here. So that was my number 2 bold prediction for the year.
I mean, just the Hoban 2 tight end. First of all, I love Hoban. I love that he does this. I love that he runs his mouth, but it is so painful when it works. By the way, scored less than 100 points, had Adam Thielen on his bench who outscored the tight end in his flex, Goddard. Just works just because it's just when the defense won him the title. I love Hoban, but the 2 tight end thing drives me crazy. All right.
He had the 3rd lowest point total of the week and won. He scored 91 points.
As usual, I had the most points scored of someone that lost. Standard for
classic. All right, we're down to your spiciest take.
My number 1 hot take, and maybe this isn't as good as the Hathaway one, but I think it's close. Zanzarella goes 0-3 and 1-4 to start the season.
A lot of shade to our champ. So you have him losing to me this week.
Yes. I mean, I think especially, I guess we've got to.
I will say one thing about our matchup. We could end on some little look ahead to week 2 if you have some thoughts. One note I have in week 2 is I have Christian McCaffrey. It doesn't look like he's going to play in week 2. Didn't play late scratch week 1. Zans has Jordan Mason. So that's a big swing. If with me not having McCaffrey, I got some depth issues at running back. I picked up Jeff Wilson off of waivers. With Raheem Mostert not playing, looks like Achane is going to go. So maybe Wilson may not be in my starting lineup. We'll see what happens tomorrow night, Thursday night. We're taping this Wednesday night. Or else I'm down to my Bronco running back duo, picking one of those guys. Who knows? So I think Zans might have more than a fighting chance, as he always does, against me in week 2. But then who do you have him losing to in week 3 or 4?
So then week 3, he's got me.
Okay.
Week 4 is, I think, where he wins because he plays Kess. And then week 5, he's got Pete.
Wow. Tough start for the champ.
0-3, 1-4 start there for.
And he's the one that tissed at my weighted schedule idea. And it looks like he's got a tough schedule out of the gate here. So karma. I don't know what you call it.
Maybe not that one, but I feel like we were pretty aligned on our hot takes, which is kind of interesting.
Pretty good.
Might
have to get some guests on to diversify these opinions this year. Who knows?
Yeah.
Quickly before we go, do you have something for us to watch in week 2 aside from your prediction involving Zans losing to me? The only matchup of 1-0 teams we have, it's Robbie against Pete.
Yeah.
We're both buyers on Robbie, it seems like, and Pete's got 2 tight ends. We don't like that, so I think we're pulling for Robbie in that one just on principle there. And then the other big matchup I would say is probably me against the champ. So the Commish against the champ, Robbie and Pete both 1-0. You got Cass. You're trying to stake your claim as the best week 2 team of all time in this league. Maybe you are already. I didn't do all the math. Anything else in week 2 jumping out?
I think so I definitely like this Robbie Pete matchup. So we made these bolder Robbie predictions. Let's see what he does against a big bad sort of staple in the league like Pete. But I really am interested, believe it or not, I'm interested in Steve Hoban.
Wow.
Hoban gets a win with less than 100 points, runs his mouth, plays 2 tight ends. Steve threw one of the all-time, even on Steve's level, that was one of the all-time duds. Pulled a Curtis. Maybe we need to use that as a term now. So
we didn't have to do studs and duds this week because the dud was Curtis. Like, we all knew it. Like, that was obvious. So why even do the exercise when everyone knows what it's going to be? That's a good matchup to watch. I've already said I think Steve's gonna trounce him, but
Yeah, I mean, if Steve comes back and puts up
fool me once,
then it's like all's fine, and Hoban gets a pat on the head with his 2 tight ends and go sit down now, right? But if Hoban wins, like, can you imagine if he goes 0-2?
I'm rooting for it. I'm definitely rooting for it. We need it. If Hoban wins, he's coming on the pod next week.
Oh, 100%.
Unless he's in Aruba. I'm in another group chat with Hoban. He's going to Aruba. I don't know when. We'll get more details on that. But Guru, thanks as always for bringing it. Good luck this week against Cass.
You too. Thanks, buddy.
That'll do it for this edition of the Sports Edge podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Our growing audience of 8, maybe, if we're lucky. I don't know. Share this. I don't think anyone else will find it interesting. Who knows?
Double-digit numbers.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But until next week, that's when we'll talk to you then.